Hey everyone, it's Daniel Benting here, and today we are going to be continuing in our planet series. This is a series about creating a planet and then creating a atmosphere destruction effect. This episode is the third in this series, and it will be covering the backdrop for our planet. So far we've made our cloud layer, our atmosphere layer, and our surface layer underneath for our planet. Today we won't be working on the planet. Today we'll be solely focused on creating the backdrop, the stars, the nebula, and all that cool stuff. So jumping right in, let's go to the shader tab right here, which is what we're in now. We're currently in object, which is what it is set to by default. This is the object material. We actually want to change this tab to world, and this is going to focus on our background. So the world tab is over here on the right, and in the first episode of this series we actually made this black so that we could just focus on our planet. Alright, so we're actually going to hide our planet. So let's go to the outliner over here, hide the atmosphere, the clouds, and the planet just with this eye symbol. Alright, now that that's gone, the other thing we want to do is hide our overlay, because we don't really need to see anything in the viewport. So the overlay button is just here, and what that does is it just gets rid of all our controls and visual cues like the grid and stuff. Alright, so now that that's gone, we can get underway. So we can see here that we've got our node, our black background with strength set to 1. This is the shader we're going to be using. So to start with, the first thing we want to create is actually the stars. We want to create a starscape across our background. And that's going to be the base. We want to eventually then layer our nebula clouds over that. So we'll start with a Voronoi texture. This is going to create our stars. What we've got to do is put our color up to white now that we've put it into the strength. There we go. Now it's showing up. And yeah, you can see that it's sort of this group of circles that are sort of pushed together and intersecting with each other at certain points. So we'll just get a color ramp, and then we'll actually pull the ramp in, and you can see our circles sort of coming in towards each other. And what we want to do is actually invert this. So flip these points around. Alright, so this is going to create our star pattern. So we pull the black in, and then yeah, all these little dots that you see that are randomly placed are going to be our stars. Now the Voronoi texture actually does have a randomness slider, which is set to 1 by default. That's what we want, because we want our stars to be placed randomly, but you can lower it to 0, which sort of creates a more uniform pattern, as you can see. So yeah, we don't want it to be uniform, so just put the randomness all the way up, and then we want to pull it in so that we have our circles. And now let's actually crank the scale so that we have lots of stars. So it's going to make them very small. I'm not sure, because of the quality of the video, I'm not sure if you will be able to see it, so I will scale them up for a moment so that they're just a bit easier to see. So now we've got our stars, but you can see that they're all white, and that's not what we want. We want stars that are different colors, because in real life, stars actually follow the black body radiation, and they fall on the color spectrum based on heat. So colder stars are red, with hotter stars being yellow, and then moving into the white with the hotter stars being blue. So we want to create that effect. So let's just use a color ramp for that. So we'll duplicate the one we already have with Shift D. And then we'll get a noise texture. So our noise texture is going to control our actual color distribution. So we'll plug that in here, and we'll actually pull out our points on our color ramp, and we'll make the left yellow and the right blue. Actually no, we want the middle to be yellow, and we want to create a third point that is red so that it moves along the spectrum. Alright, so we've got our sort of color spectrum here, and we'll plug this into the color. And now you'll notice that it's all sort of one color. The color isn't really distributing very well what we want to do is actually crank the scale so that we have a very small noise texture with lots of different values. And so if we crank that up, you'll notice, actually we'll plug it in to the output first so I can show you what it's doing. All right, we'll plug the factor in. There we go. So now you can see a black and white value of our noise texture. And you'll see that it's very small. Like I've got dark areas, light areas. And that's what we want. Like we want like our dark areas like might be red. Then right next to it is a bright area. If you can see where my mouse is, that will be like blue. And that's what we want. We want that distribution, very, very dense distribution of different colors. Whereas if we make it small, then what would happen is we would have this whole darker section, which would be like red, and then this whole section, which would be a group of blue stars, which isn't what we want. We want it to be much larger. So that's why I'm going so high with the noise texture. Actually might go a little higher. There we go. All right, so we'll plug our shader back in. And now we'll actually adjust our sliders here. All right, so now you can see the different colors actually coming in now, which is pretty cool. So we've got some blue, yellow, and even red. And you notice the gradient actually creates different colors as well. Like you'll notice between red and yellow, we've got orange. And you'll notice between yellow and blue, we've got white, which is pretty cool. All right, I'll just pull the blue back a bit, pull the yellow along, bring in a little more red. That, I think, is okay for our distribution. Let's up the scale of our noise texture. Just up in the detail and roughness. No, maybe we'll lower the detail. Yeah, we'll probably keep it low. There we go. All right. So now we've got our stars, and we actually want to adjust the strength of them, or we want to make it more patchy. So we want to have patches of bright stars and patches of darker stars, whereas it's very, even though they're still randomly placed, it's very even in terms of the fact that most of them are quite bright. So what I'll do is I'll add in a math node just to control the strength of our overall stars. So we'll set that to multiply 1. Actually put that up, say, to 5, so that we have very bright stars to begin with. And then what I want to do is get another multiply, put it in front of that, and we're actually going to control our strength of certain patches with a noise texture. So we'll plug that in, get another color ramp, and then if we just pull these in, add some points, I'm going to sort of create a white section in the middle of this color ramp and then have the outsides black. And so we could sort of cut away certain areas. Actually, let me just press Control T, which I forgot to do. You don't have to, but I just like to do it. And then I'll plug in all my textures so that they're mapped the same. All right. So let me just let's tone down the scale of our texture by a lot. Let's take it right down a little more. All right, and as you can see, it's working. I can see some fairly large patches. Let's up the roughness a bit so we get a little more breakup, and we'll up the detail. All right, and just tweak the settings until you get something you want. It'll take adjusting your noise texture and the color ramp at the same time to sort of get what you want. So let's cut away at the color ramp to see how that's working. Yeah. So yeah, that's the effect it's having. It's cutting away certain areas, which is what we want. All right, I'll make the texture a little smaller so we have some bigger areas. And then what I'll do is I'll actually get another multiply, stick it between the color ramp and our main multiply, and then we can duplicate all this. So that way we can have a second level of breakup. Plug this in, and then we'll up the scale of this one, and then we'll see how that's working. Just cut away at it. All right, let's see how power works. Alright, I think our texture's a little too big. Oh, whoops. I just realized I plugged the color ramp through the wrong socket. I used the alpha. We actually meant to use the color. Sorry about that. That was my mistake. Alright, let's just fix our ramp. So now we can add in our points again and see how it's looking. Ah, yep. We can see it working there. I think I actually want it to be a little smaller. So let's up the scale a bit. Alright. Now if we change to B-spline as well, we can actually soften up the fall off. Because now we've got this nice gradient so that they're not really, it's not black at any point. Because what we want is to have some really bright stars and then have some areas that are quite dark but not totally dark. We want the stars to be very, very dim though. Alright, let's just pull this in some more. I actually will add some points on this one just to darken it a bit more, cut it in. Let's do the same on this side. Alright, that's looking like what I want. Let's up the scale. There we go, and now we've got this very sort of random distribution of the brightness of our stars. Yeah, something like that. And then we'll adjust the scale of our bigger texture. So we have these sweeping areas of like darkness and light. I'll actually pull this in further. And we'll do the same here where we added some extra points. It just takes some tweaking, and you don't have to arrange your color ramp like I'm arranging mine. You can arrange it how you like and you'll get a different pattern. It's just the way I'm doing it so that we can sort of have one point that's bright and trim away everywhere else. Okay, how's our texture? Oh, geez, I didn't realize our texture is so small. Let me just upscale it a bit. There we go. I think that's looking okay. Let's just lower the roughness a little bit so we get our areas showing up a little more easily. And then if we change this, let's see how it looks. Alright. No, I don't like that. Let's go back to multiply. And now we'll just add another level of breakup. Just one more. And I'll duplicate these. Plug it in here. We'll see how that's working. Just move it around, make it more random. There we go. That just creates a little more variation. Just up my scale as well. There we go. And yeah, it just takes some tweaking, but I think we'll go with that for now. And now I'll just take down my scale because I've just left it high for the sake of viewing the video in case the quality wasn't enough. But I'll just put it back down to the right size and hope for the best. I apologize if you can't see it. Yeah, it's looking pretty cool. There we go. And yeah, just leave a bit up from the white so you have these bright areas and then just pull it back so you have a bit of a fall off from the star. Just a tiny bit. But yeah, that's our starscape, our randomly distributed stars. And yeah, you can randomize this however you want. You can change the scale of your noise, adjust your color ramps, add more layers if you want to create more breakup. But I think we'll leave it there. Now what we want to do is actually do our nebula. So I'm actually going to sort that out with another shader just to break it off from what we've got currently. So let's actually just add a frame here just to group everything. So select all this by left click and drag and we'll put it in the frame. And this can be our stars. Up the size of that. There we go. Now we can see the word stars. All right. Pull this stuff down and we'll get another shader. So we'll just duplicate the background shader that we used to make our stars. Actually, no, we'll create a new shader. Background same as the one we used for our stars. And then what we want to do is create our nebula. So we'll start with a noise texture. Oh, whoops, I just realized we need to have a add shader, not a mix shader. All right, so now we're going to plug in our noise. Then we'll actually just get another noise. So what I'm going to create for the base of our nebula is two noise textures. So one noise texture put through another one, just to create some more breakup, some more variation, and you get this sort of weird cloudy look, but it has sort of some patterns and lines in it, as opposed to the very soft look of a single noise texture. Just makes it look a little more interesting, like it has some direction. And then what we'll do is we'll get a color mix, and then I will plug into both our color and our strength. And we'll get a converter math multiply. So set that to multiply. Basically what we can do with this is we can adjust our strength while still having our color. So we'll leave that at 1 for now. And then we'll actually create a color ramp. So this will control the color of our sort of nebula. All right. So we're going to change this to add. And what this is going to be is actually be our mask for where our nebula clouds are and where they aren't. So it's just going to mask our clouds out for us. So we'll set one side of it to black, because that's basically where we want dark space. We want to see our stars without any obstruction. And then where we plug our color in is where our clouds are going to be. So then with the factor, I'll just pull the stuff down more so we have some room. We actually want to create a noise texture. Actually, first we'll just tweak a little bit so that we have sort of some detail. And we have our clouds sort of looking the way we want. Nothing too fancy. Maybe we'll lower the scale of them. See how that looks. That's looking cloudy. Hey, that looks cool. Let's go something like this. See how that looks. Now we'll duplicate these two. And this will be our mask. Alright, so let's put that in our factor. And let's get a color ramp. Alright. So now we can cut away. Alright. I'll just press Ctrl T so that we map all our nodes. Plug that into the vector. There we go. Alright. So let's make it a bit smaller. There we go. Sorry about that, guys. I realized we actually have to have mix because we want to mix between our black background and our color. Now we can cut away and we can see that's working. That's looking kind of interesting. Let's adjust our color now because it's just white at the moment. So let's make it sort of red and purple. Let's sort of make a darker purple. Let's see how we can mix these together. Alright. Very interesting. There we go. Yeah, you see you got some reds coming up, some purples. It's kind of cool. Let's like push it in more, see what more contrast does. Yeah, I don't really like the contrast, so let's lower it. Let's make it sort of soft. We'll make them look cloudy. They're sort of mixing together very softly. And yeah, so that's like our first layer of clouds. So if we lower the scale, we can sort of see what happens to it. And yeah, this is like sort of controlling our color. I can make it very large. Sort of breaks it up a lot, which I don't really like. I'll actually add some more detail because it's a bit soft. There we go. Alright, let's make it a bit smaller as well. Alright. Yeah, I think 4.4 is good. We'll just soften the color up a bit more. There we go. And now we can change our mask as well. Basically changes where our clouds are. Yeah, as you can see, like making it bigger sort of breaks it up a bit. It looks kind of cool. Like you got a single cloud there, one there. It's very interesting. Let's see what making our other one smaller does. Yeah, okay. Yeah, don't want it too small. Let's make it bigger and see how that works. And now we've got a bunch of small clouds, which I don't really like. I want them large. Okay, and I'll just put this down a bit. There we go. Put this smaller. It's all about tweaking it to what you want. Like, you can even just leave it like this. This is very subtle. And, like, we've got these few tiny little patches, but, like, it doesn't really affect the scene too much. And sometimes less is more in these cases, but I think I want my clouds to be a little more prominent. But yeah, even this is cool. Let's create more breakup with the roughness. Yeah, I think I'll just adjust this now. And there we go. I'll try out B-spline. And yeah, as we can see, we sort of get this much softer look, which looks very cool. It sort of gets you used to looking at it because it sort of makes it all red. But it's just more exaggerated in certain areas. So I really like this look. Let's stick with that. And then let's actually add another layer. So we're actually going to add another add node. And this is how we're going to add layers to this. So we're going to put another color mix, but this time we'll change it to add right here. And then we want to set that up the same way it was before. So plug this into there, unplug that, and there we go. And now we want to actually get another noise texture. And this time we want to plug it through a Voronoi instead of another noise. So we'll get a Voronoi texture, plug that in, and then we'll plug that in here. We'll see what that's doing. So you get this very, actually no, first we'll change our Voronoi texture to, from F1 to distance to edge. And what distance to edge does, I'll just duplicate it and plug it into our main input. This actually creates sort of a line pattern. So rather than doing the soft version where it's all the circles, it sort of creates all these cells with very sharp lines. And that's what we want. Because what I want to do is sort of create the effect of like soft, cloudy lines to begin with, but we're also going to use this same effect to create sort of lightning later on. Let's just tweak it. So we'll just delete that and then plug in our main input again. And then get our Voronoi and we'll get another color ramp for it. So what we want to do is we really want to cut away to make those areas really thin. But we'll swap it around because I want the bright bits to be thin. There we go. And now you got like all these lines, which is what I wanted. Now it's just a matter of tweaking our textures till we get something we like. So I wanted something a bit bigger. It's a bit too much at the moment. Let's just save first. It's very important to do that regularly. Alright, we're getting closer to what I want. Yeah, something large like this. Yeah, okay. I'm liking that. And we'll pull this back a bit just to soften them. So we get these more cloudy looks. And now you'll notice that the texture is showing up everywhere. That is because we haven't yet masked it out. Oh, I just realized I plugged it into the wrong slot. Sorry, we want to keep the mix node black because that's what's mixing our main Nebula clouds, our red ones, with black space. So plug it into the bottom of our add. That's our Voronoi here. And we want to create another mask. So we created a mask for our first set for our red clouds here into the factor. We want to duplicate that. But I think I'm only going to use one noise texture this time rather than two. So duplicate those, plug that in to our mapping, and then plug this into our factor. And then we have a mask where we can just cut away. I'll turn this back to ease because I want a bit of a harder fall off. Now we can just pull that back. And now I've got these sort of areas where it's creating sort of more spindly clouds, more of a line pattern, as opposed to the bigger, fluffier clouds from our first layer. And then let's actually tweak our texture a little more. If we pull that away, push it in. Yeah, you can get something very thin. And this is what I was talking about with the lightning effect earlier, is that we're going to create a second level of this where we go very thin with the effect. Something like that, which creates a very interesting effect. You might not like it, it's not very realistic sci-fi, but if you're looking to go something interesting and flashy, then I think it's a cool effect. Alright, I think that's okay. Can adjust scale some more, but I think ours is okay. Yeah, I think I like that. Alright. I'm actually going to change the scale of my noise texture so it's a bit different from our other clouds. Create some more noise. See how that breaks it up. Alright. A little more detail too. It's very low. Lower our roughness. It's a bit too much now. There we go. Yeah, I think I just want to make them very soft. There we go. Very subtle. So, got some areas where they're showing up a little more and then areas where they're not so much. And there we go. That's good in my opinion. So, let's actually get a color ramp for this. There we go. And we'll make it, let's go with let's mix it between an aqua and a blue, or purpley blue. Now, not sort of what I was going for. Let's see how we go pulling it in. Yeah, we'll go for a more purple, and then we'll pull this over. Get something more like this. There we go. Yeah, there we go. That light color is coming through a bit, which is interesting. Alright, now let's actually pull them away a little bit, because I think it's a bit strong. Alright. And that, I think, is looking pretty good. Like, we've got some of the lines coming through, which is pretty interesting. And we've got the different colors, like the blue and the purple. And it's not too overpowering. Let's just pull it away a little bit more. There we go. That will do. Now we'll create our third layer. So with this one, we're actually going to go with a Voronoi and a Voronoi. So this just creates a bit more crazy spindly lines. And we'll get another add. So like I said, we'll be using the color add to add our colors together. So plug that in, set that all up again, and then we've got our next add for our next layer. Let's get another color ramp and then plug that in to the add over here. Then you can see the pattern I sort of showed you guys before, except it's got more lines in it because of the second Voronoi. What we want to do, I realized I actually forgot an effect. What we want to do is actually create a second mapping. So our first layer is fine. So our mask for our red clouds here and our red cloud color, which is this set of nodes here, that's all good. But what I wanted to do is actually change up the look of all our textures using Voronoi textures. What I wanted to do was actually put a noise texture behind the mapping node. And this is a cool trick. I'll show you. Actually, you'll be able to see what it does just from looking at the screen here. If you get a mix, then a noise texture, and you can do this with any texture, but we're going to use noise. Alright, and as you can see, that's creating very wavy Voronoi. So it's basically taking the Voronoi and warping it through the noise. And so you can change the factor with the mix. So see, if you turn it down to 0, you get that very hard cell look. And then you up it a bit and it adds more and more distortion. See here, yeah, you can see it getting more and more. So I'm actually going to change this to linear light. Yeah, now we've got all these waves happening. And now I'll just mute our new layer. So I'll go back to our add that we added a little earlier. Just mute that. Because I want to take a look at our other layer now that I actually remembered to put in that little distortion at the back here. And looking at it, it's actually looking pretty cool. It's looking more broken up. Yeah, and yeah, you can see the lines waving a little. You don't have to do this effect. I just like it. We're definitely going to need it for the next layer that we're about to work on with our two Voronois here. because we don't want those hard lines in our lightning. We want it to be curved and more erratic. That's why we're adding that warp, but I just thought it was cool to have it in our previous layer as well. But you can arrange it how you like. You can separate it, do this layer differently from this one. We're just keeping the same warp for simplicity's sake. So let me just tone it down a little bit. I think it might be a bit strong. So it doesn't take much to warp it, like it's only at 0.161. Alright, that's looking interesting. You know what, I might see what it looks like. Yeah, it's interesting like that. Looks like it has more energy when the brighter color is in the center of the texture. I don't know if you can see that. As opposed to before when it was the dark part of the texture. I feel like it makes more sense the other way around. So let's just swap that. There we go. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I think we'll leave it like that. You can tweak it however you like. But we'll work on our new layer now. So let's come back. Let's unmute our add. And we're going to do the same thing we did with the last layer. So we need a mask. So let's just duplicate our noise and our color ramp up here. Let's plug that into our add node right here. Alright, so now that's got a mask. We'll pull that out so that we can see it. There we go. Got something interesting happening. I think, yeah, what we need to do is cut in. Like I said, I wanted this one to be really thin, so we'll flip it around like we did with our layer up here. So, yeah, they're flipped around. And then we want to cut in a lot. There we go. Now we've got these lines. Alright, let's adjust our scale. And we want to use, I think, a reasonably large noise texture to cut it out. So mask it out with this color ramp. And we get some breakup. And I want the roughness to be fairly high so we get some good breakup. Oh, that might be a little too much detail. Alright. And now with this one, because this is a fairly visible effect, which I want it to be more subtle, we're actually going to create another set of masks here. So we're going to duplicate these two nodes again, and we're going to add in a math node. So set it to multiply, and we'll plug them in so that they're affecting each other. Alright, so now we'll just be able to add another level where we can mask out areas. So what I'll do is I'll make this smaller. So we're going to use this top one to mask out large areas. And then we're going to use our smaller one to mask out smaller areas just to cut up our big bits a little more. Our big bits of lightning. I think that's a little too big now. Alright. That's looking cool. And yeah, like if we put this up to white, this mask, you can see that what our bigger noise texture is doing. It's cutting large areas out like this section. But then we also have our smaller noise texture, which is controlled by this color ramp here. That multiplied with our larger one helps us cut away smaller areas as well. So you'll be able to see that. Let's take a look at what it does to this big area here. Alright, I think we'll lower our distortion a little bit. There we go. Alright. No, that's too much. Let's cut it away a little more. Make it a bit thinner. I'm actually not really digging the simplicity of it. I want to fluff it up a bit. So let's see how we affect it with a noise. So let's see what we've got. Bit much. See what happens when we put it behind everything. Alright. Alright, so let's... Yeah, I'm going to add in a mix node. And we're going to do the same trick we did back here. Because I think it needs it. So let's put in the noise here, and let's get our mix, and we'll plug the original in as well, and we're going to mix between the two. Let's just cut back in. There we go. And we'll adjust our mix. Actually, no, that's not the effect I want. I think I'll create a mask for it. Yeah. Let's grab this and actually multiply this stuff. Math. Alright. We'll get another color ramp, so we'll duplicate that one. Alright, I'll just open this up a little more. And now we can hopefully see what's happening. Alright. Just lower the roughness a little bit. There we go. Alright, so we'll just added some noise into our lines, just to make them a little more detailed. Alright. I think we'll just tweak our scale a little more because they're too small for my liking. Let's pull that in, cut that out. And then let's adjust our mask a little more. Alright, now let's just control the color. Alright, we'll add in a color ramp on our new layer, and we'll set this to be blue. Alright, now what I actually want to do is get another mix node, and we want to actually use this as the color, but we want to set this to value, and we want to plug in the original multiply, and then put the factor to 1. So it grabs the value from here, but changes the color with this. And then, of course, we can put a multiply, if we desire, into our value socket underneath, and increase the intensity to whatever we like. So that's just an interesting trick so that you can control value and color separately. And so we've got our lines coming up here. They're a bit intense for my liking. Alright, let's change it maybe to 6. See how that looks. Some interesting looks with different colors. That's weird. You know, let's make it more like the rest. Flip them around. Alright. Yeah, let's make this one a darker blue. There we go. I think that's looking pretty interesting. Again, you can tweak it to whatever you want. I'm probably going to tweak it a little more, so bear with me. There we go. I think I'm just going to create another multiply node, and we're actually just going to tone down some areas of our strength. So that's where we've put our multiply for our value mix here. So let's get another noise texture. Just Control T just to make it quick. Then stick it in the bottom. We'll see how we go with that. Alright, just get a color ramp quickly. and then we can just push and pull certain areas. Sort of acts as another mask. But yeah, just different ways to manipulate it. Alright, let's mute it, see what it's doing. There we go, yeah, it's just toning it down in certain areas. And I'll change the overall strength. Alright. So yeah, that is really an optional effect because it is a little more intrusive than the others. But we've got our stars and our nebula clouds, which look pretty cool. And that's pretty much it. You can tweak it however you like. Come up with new patterns, mixing textures together. So let's just bring back our planet in the outliner here, and then we'll press 0 to go to the camera view. Alright, and now I'm going to use this segment of the video to just do a time lapse and go in and tweak the things that I wasn't quite happy with, because I noticed that I actually thought my background was a little too soft looking, it didn't have enough detail. So I'm just going to go in now, tweak some stuff, and tweak some of our planet shaders a little bit as well, so that we can get our final scene before working on the destruction effects in the future episodes. Alright, so let's go. Alright, so we've got our background. I'm going to work on that first. So we'll start with the actual mask for our first red layer. So I'm increasing the scale, increasing the roughness, just to add more detail, more breakup, and make it more fluffy looking because it was too soft before, I felt. And just tweaking those details, taking a look at it, adjusting the scale some more. And then I'm adjusting the scale of my color and coming back to the mask roughness, adjusting detail, things like that. Just all the stuff that I'm trying to do just to add more breakup to our clouds. Yeah, just to add those extra layers in our final shot. Alright, so just trimming in the color ramps, seeing what works. I tried to make it a little more subtle. So here I'm just adjusting scale again. And then I actually try and rotate it to find a good part of the clouds to view behind my planet in my final camera shot. So here I liked having that nebula cloud behind the planet there. So I'm just adjusting the rotation of the mapping node, which actually rotates the texture around the world. And I'm just adjusting my streak layer, the small bright streaks with the Voronoi textures. Trimming them in. Yeah, I'm pulling them out, seeing what it looks like, making them look a little thicker. Yeah, I'm adjusting the mask for the streaks now, seeing what it looks like when there's more of them or when there's less. Yeah, I'm pulling it in to make it more subtle now. Yeah, just playing with it, seeing what it looks like. Alright, playing with my scale a little more to create different types of breakup for my streaks in the actual streak mask. And now I'm coming back to the color ramp for it and the Voronoi to actually change the pattern and see what works. So adjusting scale and stuff like that. I'm adjusting my strength to make it less prominent because I thought it was too bright. Yeah, adjusting my mask again to create different amounts of breakup. Pulling my color ramps to make more streaks appear and less. So yeah, just tweaking it, seeing what I like. Alright, I'm adjusting my Voronoi again. And then this is my distortion at the back of all our nodes. I'm playing with that. Because what the problem I felt was that the streaks were too straight and they weren't like rippled enough. So I decided to add more scale in the noise texture just to add more crazy waviness in the streaks. And you can see that working there and the way it changes the pattern when I change that noise texture. And yeah, it just looks really smooth there. It doesn't look so good. And then when I add more, it sort of breaks it up, which looks really cool. All right, I'm still playing with it, getting different scales, finding something I like. And then I'm playing with the mask again, seeing what works when there's more or less of them. I try to make it like really subtle so that there's not too many areas where there are streaks. Try to trim it in a bit in places. Yeah, there we go, something really subtle. All right. And you can see there are bits where it's brighter and then bits where there is no streaks at all, and that's what I was looking for. Just something where it just pops up in areas randomly, just so that it's not everywhere. And so yeah, that's just by playing with the color ramps of my streak mask. Just in the strength again, I didn't like it really strong, so I kept it at a low amount. That's just with the multiply node. Checking it in my camera view again, it's always good to do that. And then I decided to add another mapping node and actually connect my bottom Voronoi or streak texture to that so that I could control it individually. So now I'm just adjusting rotation to move my streaks around so that I get a good section of streaks behind my planet in my final shot. But then I realized that it actually wasn't really working, and the streaks were sort of distorting as I was rotating it. And that's because I hadn't actually connected everything that I needed to. So we're about to do that. Yep. So I'm connecting all the textures related to that streak effect to that bottom mapping node that I've added, just so that I can control all the streaks individually of the rest of my layers. I'm just rotating them, finding a bit that I like, but it's still distorting. And yeah, so that's because I didn't have it connected to the noise texture as well. You basically want it connected to your mapping node, connected to all the bits that you want to be able to manipulate. And it's still distorting, and that's actually because I haven't put the mapping node at the back. So there's still this noise texture, which is warping things behind it. And so you actually want the mapping node to be behind that, which is what I'm doing now. So adding the mapping node to the back. So that's just one final mapping node which controls absolutely everything in that layer. So now you can see my streaks are rotating now, and they're not changing shape. They're staying exactly the same, just rotating the way I want. And that's because the mapping node is behind the noise texture, which is being used to warp my effect. So yeah, just keep that in mind, because that effect was still messing up our, like distorting it as we were rotating it with the mapping node that was in front. But yeah, now that we're using the mapping node that's behind it, it's working. All right, so now I'm just adjusting my stars. I'm trimming them in a bit with the main color ramp, making them a bit smaller, because I thought they were too big. And now it just makes them a little more subtle. Now I'm just playing with my mask again for my stars so that I can get different areas of breakup where my stars appear. And that's just done with the noise textures that I've used to create the mask. So I'm adjusting things like scale and that. And yeah, you can see you got patches where there are stars and patches of darkness, which looks cool. It's not too overpowering. I'm increasing my strength, seeing what it looks like with brighter stars than darker stars. So that's just with my main multiply node, which is for the strength. Then here are my color ramps for the, or one of the color ramps for the strength of my mask. I'm just adjusting those values to change where my stars are appearing. Yeah, just tweaking all this stuff to find something that I was happy with. Right, and that's where I mute my mask to see what it looks like when the stars are everywhere, just to see the effect that my mask is having when I mute it and unmute it, just to see that difference, to see if like the effect I've created is actually working the way I expect. So yeah, it's sometimes good to mute some effects so that you can see effects individually and how they're working or how they're affecting your scene. Yeah, then I just added a multiply, but then I realized I didn't like it, so I took it out. And then I'm affecting the main strength again, and I decided that it was a bit nicer to have it a bit higher, making my stars just a little bit brighter, so they're a little more visible. All right, and then I thought I'd adjust my planet shader, because I wasn't happy with the pattern or the breakup of colors on my actual planet surface. So I've selected my planet. We're looking at our planet shader now, back in the object shaders on the right. And I decided I wanted to increase the actual chasms, which are those dark lines. So I'm increasing the multiply for that to make sure the color appears more visibly. So now you've got these really dark lines on the planet. And I've also increased the strength of the mountains, which are the white areas. So yeah, I've basically just increased those two multipliers to increase the visibility of those two effects. Alright, I'm just adjusting those multipliers to see what I like, because I felt that they weren't as visible as I'd like. And now I'm playing with the main color amps to adjust the main areas of color on the planet, bringing in more dark patches, making them more visible. And I'm adjusting my noise textures, which are the base of my texture. And here is actually where I noticed the problem with my background. It stopped working when I changed to the EEVEE rendering engine. And it was just because the output node, which is the red node at the end where you plug everything in, was set to cycles. You need to set it to all, which is what I'm doing now. And that just makes it work in both EEVEE and cycles. Alright, so now the background's working again. And we can go back to object shader. Alright, so I'm just adjusting my noise texture again, getting all these different patterns, seeing what I like. And yeah, just seeing what I like when there's more breakup or less, and playing with roughness and detail levels. And then the scale to get different sizes of the different color patches. Yeah, a lot of this is just controlled with the color amps and the noise textures of this shader. And yeah, this is just the two main noise textures that we started with in the first episode when we made our surface planet shader, because those sort of serve as the foundation of this shader, or its pattern. Adjusting the color amp again, changing where my colors appear, and I'm changing the red tone a little bit because I thought it was a little too red, making it a bit more orange, closer to the yellow hue of the lighter area of the planet. Alright, just tweaking a little more, trying to find a pattern that I like. And adjusting my dark value. Alright. And now I felt that my normal strength was too high, so I put it to 0.8, just to lower the intensity of my bumps. And then I did the same with the cloud layer as well. So I just went to the cloud shader by selecting the clouds, went to the normal node, which is the purple one, and set it to 0.8 instead of 1. Alright. Now I come back to my world and I just adjust the strength of my stars again to make them a little brighter, and I trim them in a little more. And yeah, so that was when I was happy with it. Alright, so that's it for this tutorial. We've now got our backdrop with our stars and our nebula. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me out. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Next video will be episode 4, where we go over our cloud ash material for our burning up effect on our planet. Alright guys, see ya.